Insight, the stripped back podcast. All about the what, the how, and the why tradespeople do what they do. Get first-hand knowledge and life stories from apprentices to the seasoned professionals. Hear the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of a tradesperson's life through unfiltered chat, now on Insight, the stripped back podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Insight, the stripped back podcast. On this episode, I've got Apprentice of the Year winner 2023, Kerrie Fitzgerald, looking to give an insight into her journey and give a female perspective within the trade industry. This shines a light on diversity and inclusion, and women bring diversity to the trade industry, offering different perspectives, experiences, and ways of thinking. This diversity fosters innovation, creativity, and an openness to new ideas, creating a more inclusive and responsive trade environment. But before we get into talking to Kerrie, we've got the Overload segment with Keith Delahan.
The Overload, featuring Keith Delahan.
This episode of The Overload is sponsored by Toro Workwear. They are an up-and-coming Irish brand that offers top-quality workwear at competitive prices. Their Toro Duro work trousers are made with flexi-mat material that offers flexibility for optimal comfort and movement during strenuous work. They are a fantastic fit that combines durability, style, and practicality. Also, check out their range of hoodies that are available in a variety of colours and are perfect for keeping you warm and comfortable all year round. Head over to toroworkwear.com or find them on Instagram at toroworkwear to see what they have to offer. Right, so we're live and you're back. How was our break last week? Not having to do any recording?
Yeah, it was grand. I wouldn't call it a break. Working late and a lot of evenings last week catching up on certificates, and I suppose it might lead into what we're going to have a chat about today. About, you know, when you're getting your inspections and stuff like that, and things you should be doing as a kind of a registered contractor. These weeks creep up on you every now and again where you're just a little bit backlogged with paperwork and stuff. You know from your gig as well, paperwork's king nowadays.
Yeah, I'm flat out now actually at the minute. Since January I've just seemed to be out the door with, like you said, administration along with the actual physical work. But it was good to get out to one of your jobs there actually last week. The solar install job was a good bit of insight. I've never been pretty much involved with one up until seeing that one being done. Yeah,
it was good. We were talking about it for a couple of weeks. I wanted to get you out and, you know, get you working on them as well. Like, as you can see, there's not a lot there's a lot of work in it, but like in terms of knowing what to do, there's not that much in it. It's more labour intensive, like, and then obviously setting up the systems online and the user faces for the customers. That kind of takes up most of your work. The electrical side of it is actually not too bad. It's the labour side and setup, I suppose.
Yeah, I got some actually really good feedback from the Instagram videos that we put up of the inverter setup and the actual installation of the isolators and stuff like that, and even, you know, down to the minute things like having to upgrade the tails, and then after doing that then actually having to retest the installation. So just little things like that people wouldn't realise they have to do, you know.
Yeah, like it's all got to do with the grant paperwork as well. So like the upgrading of the tails and, you know, checking for visible air rods and all your supplementary bonding and, you know, gas line being bonded, all that kind of stuff kind of has to be done to bring it up to SEAI standard. Like, you know, there's minimum requirements. So we were lucky in a sense with that one there that we had the ESB isolation connection point that we could just upgrade it there and then test everything after that, you know, without having the customer to obviously pay an extra fee to get that disconnected and reconnected with the new tails, you know. So it was nice that we were able to just do that on site, you know.
Yeah, I noticed when I was out there that a couple of your apprentices obviously working on site, like, they were very handy at getting in and doing the installs. Is that something that, like, you try to instill in your lads, that, you know, you're happy enough to be able to leave them to do the brunt of the work?
Yeah, like, remember we were talking a couple of weeks ago about obviously the more you show them, the more they're going to be of benefit to you anyway. And it led into the likes of having good fully qualified lads with them that are going to show them the ropes and, you know, obviously move the jobs along a bit quicker. But as you see in David there that was with me, like he can do solar install from start to finish, like, you know, and then obviously I'll be doing the testing with him, like, you know, but like totally confident on letting him run that job obviously until testing stages, like, you know, and set up. He just needs to scrub up on his, like, you know, commissioning end of it and that, but everything else is 100%, like, and that goes across the board with the lads, like, you know, he's in his third year now, hasn't even been to phase 2 yet. He's away there in the next 2 weeks, but he's got to fly through that, you know. He's well capable of doing that, you know, as you've seen yourself.
Yeah, well, like, with the amount of work that you obviously have going on, you obviously need your lads to be able to step up, like, and I think that's going to obviously give them a lot of confidence as well, that they're getting hands-on experience, and by the time then that they're ready to go into their next phase, then they're going to be leaps and bounds beyond maybe somebody else that, you know, is not getting the push from their peers on site, like, to be able to say, look, I'm going to walk away from this and I trust you to be able to finish it, you know. Yeah,
and like what you're saying there, if, like, you get your first apprentice in, like, so say you had him from first year till his fourth year, and like you really instilled it in him, the next lad that comes in will see him and say, well, look there, that's what Keith wants out of his apprentices. Like, look at like, for instance, Dan was my first apprentice, like, he's flying in college, all distinctions, like, now that's not down, well, partly down to me, but partly down to himself, because he has the drive and wanting to be able to do it. And like, looking at Dan, he's all the best of tools. He obviously has a good interest in it, but I can see that, like, kind of tearing down onto the next lads that are starting. Like, so we've got a new guy in the last 2 weeks, like, you know, and you can see even he's gradually starting to up his game. Like, I was a bit worried about him the first 2 days, but like, obviously you have to give everyone a bit of time. But now I can see he's gradually starting to get into the ethos of how we like to work and kind of how we're running the jobs, like. So yeah, once you do it with one, obviously the next one's a little bit easier, and obviously that lad can show the next lad show the next lad, you know. That's kind of the way it works.
And I was only talking to Lizzie Corson. She stepped in for the overload on the last episode, and the difference between the UK and Ireland at the minute with the apprenticeship system, it's very clear, you know, because she explained that, you know, in the UK at the minute there's a lot of people, like, leaving the apprenticeship system because they're losing their jobs, or they feel themselves that they're not getting the proper training as well from the employers that they're working with. Like, so to have somebody like yourself, like, with a company, you know, I know you said that, you know, the first couple of days you probably think as an employer, did I make the right choice here with this guy? But like what you said, you mould them, you get them working the way you feel like that you want them working, and then they pay you back tenfold, you know.
Yeah, well, like, obviously, you know, 2-3 months into it, like, you'll get a good understanding of that, if that lad is really going to cut the mustard, like. But generally you do, like, you know, you're coming straight from school. Some of the lads I've taken on obviously had working backgrounds, like their families were working families where the guys were working from maybe when they were 12, 13, like, whether it be a bit of farming or whatever they were doing, like. But then you get the lads that were trying to be, you know, academically good, like, where they were trying to go for a good leaving cert, and then it just didn't work out for them, like. So
pivot into a new industry.
You know, where they were working, like, one of the lads was working in, like, say, like, the likes of a Tesco's, so, you know, he's obviously not going to have hands on. You know, he won't step straight into a construction role. You'll need to be moulded a bit and shown the ropes, and I suppose that's the least you need to afford them, is the little bit of time, like, you know.
Yeah, and you think of it, like, even on the previous episode there, Kerrie Alder, you know.
Yeah, that was a good one.
If you listen to his story, you know, he decided he was going to go for, I think it was like a business lawyer role, so a bit of something in regards to something completely away from technically off the tools, you know, and made a decision fairly early on that he wanted to pivot and change, and then ended up as an electrical apprentice, and now, you know, from an apprentice into project management, into a managing director, and then now like probably running one of the biggest engineering projects in London at the minute with the Tideway project. So the opportunities are endless, you know what I mean? If you just put your head down to it, starting off, you don't know where you're going to end up, you know?
Yeah, well, that was an interesting story when I was listening to it, and like you're listening to other podcasts, like you listened into like the Fixed Radio one with Thomas Nagy and your man Paul Meenan, like the same thing. They have guys on that, and it kind of emphasises what you're saying there. Like you start off like thinking like I'm going to be an electrician, but like wherever the path brings you, then after that, like I'm a firm believer if you're a hard worker and you put in the hard yards, different avenues will open up for you. Like even for likes of myself, like, you know, I kind of started off with one person working for one company, and then it kind of snowballed into a couple of companies because the word gets around. Like, you know, if you're a hard worker and you're doing things the right way, or what you perceive to be the right way, you know, it will grow, and the word will get around that you're doing good work, you know what I mean, and you're doing it in the right way, or what you think is the right way, you know, and you're treating your customers and I suppose your employees, you know, right, you know.
Well, there's so many more opportunities nowadays, I think, for somebody entering a technical trade, and it even comes down to the social media aspect of it, you know, because you've got apprentices now recording themselves doing their, you know, learning how to do their first bend of conduit, like, and putting it up onto TikTok or Instagram, you know, and then you're getting so many views from other apprentices of how you installed, you know, DC isolators where they might have not realised that the connections were slightly different to an AC one, you know, and just little things like that where you're just putting a small bit of information out online and you get so many clicks then onto your page, then just brings attention to yourself. Obviously promote your company, promote yourself as an apprentice, promote yourself as a qualified electrician, and then opportunities just come from that. Pretty much like what I'm doing now with the podcast. I never thought that this would be an opportunity or an avenue that I'd go down, but just from putting the Instagram videos out, getting feedback from people about, you know, they like to listen to me doing the talking bits rather than putting the music in, maybe you should do a podcast, you know, and, you know, here we are today, you know.
Yeah, it's like, it's about growing incrementally, bit by piece, like, you know, like small bits at a time, and all those small bits will, you know, eventually add up to something a bit bigger, like, you know what I mean. Just like for instance today, I know you were saying about the apprentices and they're in doing their phases. Like I got a picture sent to me today from my apprentice. Like he's going to his phase 2, and he's sending me pictures of, you know, his clipping work that he's doing in his phase 2. And obviously he's well able to do it. He'd often slag me and saying I'm too particular in the way I want my clips turned the right way and all this kind of stuff. But he was laughing today and he just said, I'm glad you showed me that, because look at my wall. So he said all his lights were and the switches, and I just wrote my message back. I said that third one on the left looks a bit crooked, like. So he sent me back a, you know, kind of a laughing emoji, and he just said I'll fix it now because I'm waiting on all the other guys to finish, because, you know, obviously he feels that I taught him well enough that he was able to get ahead of all the other lads, you know.
Are you sure it was just the laughing emoji that he sent, or was something worse?
Yeah, I'm sure he was saying something but behind the screen, alright, but not brave enough to say it to me yet. Maybe when he's in his 4th year,
yeah,
he might be brave enough to say it.
I think, you know, moving on from that, you know, there is the other obviously important aspects of the job, and that's inspections, you know, and you'll know more about it obviously than I would, but safe electric inspections can be fairly daunting for somebody in a position of self-employment, and they're looking to get up and running. They don't know what's ahead of them, and they might be just looking online, or they might be asking other local electricians or somebody else, you know, that's in a similar position to them about what they could expect from an electrical inspection. And I know you would be happy enough to try and go into a few pointers on it.
Good question in your suggestion box during the week on Instagram. What was that question again? Something about, it was about the safe electrical inspection.
I think it was, somebody was asking, let me just check it here. Yeah, it says, how many inspections are you expected to get yearly?
Well, it kind of depends. You have an annual inspection that obviously you'll get annually, so that's one inspection. Where the lads will they'll contact you, and they'll ask you, they'll have one of your certificates that you've sent in, usually cert 1 where you've done like a rewire, where like you would have a bulk of work done from the national rules for the electrical installations, like, so you'll have most of that done in that, you know what I mean, domestically anyway, on our scale. But yeah, they'll look to come out and see that. But when you're registering your membership for the first year, they'll generally come out and do 2 visits in the first year. So I know what my inspector said to me was, when I contacted him, he said, look, we'd like to come out and see the first fix stage, you know, just to check up and make sure you're doing everything to standard, like, and we're all happy. Because you have to remember, they don't know who you are, you know, you see, you pay for your membership, you know, you give your credentials, you get your insurance and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, they don't know who you are, like, you know, so you're kind of building a rapport with them as well. So yeah, they come out for your first fix, and then they'll generally say, look, we'll come out for a second fix of another job. They won't want to see that job in the latter part of that year, but they say, like, look, we're happy enough with the first fix. When you're on your next project, give us a shout and we'll come out and we'll inspect we'll do the post connection inspection. So basically, like, when there's power on the house, they'll come out and they'll do a bit of testing with you, and obviously check your accessories and all that kind of stuff, test equipment, all that kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of getting the inspections, people are daunted by them, but like, the lads, at the end of the day, they're not out to get you. You know, if you're sticking to the rules and sticking by their guidelines, there's never usually an issue. You might get a couple of non-conformances, like just minor ones, like, and if you've done something wrong, they'll give you the opportunity to do it right, you know what I mean, and basically get back to them for a re-inspection then. Or in some cases, you're just filling out basically the sheet that they issue you, and you're just saying, look, I've completed the tasks. You can send them up. Some of them, like, I've had a couple of different inspectors now, some of them will actually be happy enough with you filling out that form and sending on a couple of picture evidences of you completing the task that you maybe didn't in the first place, like.
Keep you honest, like, so it keeps you, as a company, it keeps you honest, keeps you on your toes. They're not coming out to catch you out, they're really coming out just to make sure that you're above board, and that, you know, if there is something that they can highlight, as you said, they give you the opportunity to fix it, because at the end of the day, it's safety aspect of everything for, you know, the client, and you're wiring a job, they're looking at your first fix. Once that's all boarded up and fixed, nobody knows what's behind those walls, like, so to come out and just see somebody's work firsthand, and then come back then obviously on a different job, see your second fix, it's going to, obviously you said, like, build up a
rapport with them, and that they know who you are and what you're about, like, you know, because they'll know from that first job, like, if you do that right, they'll have a general, and like, it all goes down to your readings and stuff as well. So can
you remember your first inspection? Can you remember how you felt before it, like?
I'll be honest with you, I was shitting it, like, you know, it's like any major interview you've ever had in your life, or maybe for some people, like, going sitting their driving test or something like that, like, it's the same level of anxiousness before it starts. But I don't know if everyone's in the same boat, but the inspector that I had made me feel right at home. He didn't make me feel any way smaller or anything like that, like, he was perfect, like, actually gave me a couple of good pointers, like, in different ways. Like, my testing went fine. I think they allow a tolerance of something like 5%. So, like, the readings you have in your test record sheets have to be within 5% of what you're getting in the inspection. So, obviously, do your testing right and be 100% on what you're doing before they come out, because they'll pick randomly, like, a couple of circuits, and they'll test those circuits. They'll do a bit of they'll do an insulation resistance testing as well. Now they're fairly okay with that, because obviously when you do first fixes, you know, there might be a bit of moisture in the air, elements and stuff like that. So once it's within once it's within reason, like, and it's better than the guidelines that you should be reaching. Like,
it's just pretty much making sure the lads are not picking numbers out of their heads and sticking them on the page. And
yeah, and there's a couple of different pointers. Like, not that they're trying to catch you out, but they'll ask you things that you probably should know. Like, you know, what do you think the resistance of, you know, 1.5 cable would be over 10 meters? You know, your RPREs. What should you be looking for on your test results? And you know, you can have I use John Clare's on-site you know, on-site instructions for the installs, like, you know, so all those, the handy readings will be there, like, so once you can rhyme off a few of those, or you can show them that, like, you're going from this book, or you're going from the reg book, and you know
where to find.
Yeah, like, you're not just getting these readings and then just sticking them on the page.
And I think they teach you that, like, right back from your apprenticeship. Like, it's like, I think a lot of lecturers give you the opportunity to say, look, the answer for this question should be in Apex D of page whatever, you know, and it just goes to show that you know where to be looking for the answer rather than not having a clue at all, you know.
Yeah, and exactly, and like, that's exactly it. And they'll give, like, a couple of pointers as well. Like, if you're wiring, say you're wiring a switch bank that, like, is servicing 30 lights or something, like, and you've got 2 feeds in it, simple things like putting a label on the 2 feeds, like saying, letting the next person know that there's 2 feeds in this box. So obviously, like, you could go, imagine you were there, like, 2 years after the install went in, and you're looking to fix a couple of lights. You obviously turn the power off the board, those lights will go dead. You'll automatically think, oh, that switch box is completely dead because all the lights have gone off. But the second half of that switch box could be controlling outside lights. Yeah. So putting a tag or a flag, whatever you want to call it, around those, saying, basically letting the next lad know that there's 2 feeds in this box. Obviously, be careful, like, you know, or isolate both of them before doing any works on it. Like, the lads are actually looking for that, but if you haven't got it done already, they'll kindly tell you, like, you should be doing that. Yeah. Or if you haven't done it, they might give you a small non-conformance, and then you just fix it. They might let you fix it then and there, or they might ask you to send on the paperwork to say, look, get that finished, get that done, like, you know.
Yeah, and I think, it does, it future-proofs it for, like, you know, you should finish every board with the mindset of, this is how you would like somebody to find it, you know. Yeah,
the next person, like, you're not looking to trick anybody, like, you know.
Yeah. And I think like what you mentioned there, even about knowing where to find the answers on things, I think that leads into something that came up for me last year at one stage, where I caught somebody out, you know, they replaced a breaker in a board, you know, and they had I think it was a 20 amp breaker on a circuit that was faulty, and they took it out, you know, and they replaced it, but it was a B type that was taken out and it was a C type that was put back in.
Yeah, so they just put on the old joke they had.
Yeah, you know, they just think it's 20 amp, I'm going to take out 20 amp, I'm going to put in one and it's going to work, you know, but not realising that if you go and actually check that the trip times are different, you know, between a B type and a C type, and having that knowledge to be able to go and find those, you know, readings and, you know, the trip times is a big plus for somebody to say, look, right, you know what you're talking about.
That's the type of thing, like, depending on what humour the inspector's in or how he thinks you're going with it, like, he might throw those questions at you because you could be giving him the idea or the notion that you haven't got a clue about anything. Then he's into full inspector mode, where he's not that he's trying to catch you out, but just to see what your knowledge is, like, sure, are you capable of actually doing this, like, because you imagine if he came into a fuse board and you've all C's and D type breakers in it and you think that's right, like, you know, he obviously has to put the hammer down on that, like, and, you know, call you up on it, like, you know, because they're probably red flags for him, like, they're not just non-conformities now, these are, like, probably grounds for a cancellation of the membership, like, you know what I mean?
It tastes blood in the water then.
Well, that's it. And then you were saying, was someone asking you what you need to have on the day or something like that, was it?
Yeah, just somebody was just saying what to be prepared on the day, what you need, obviously, to have on hand on the day when the inspector arrives. Yeah,
like, I know my first inspection, it was on like a building site. It was a brand new build. So obviously, the couple of things I looked out for before they even got there. Now, there's nowhere in the rules that say it, but obviously it's just general knowledge. It was like the appropriate PPE, so like having your boots, high vis, hard hat if needed. Like, there was that, and then one of the big things I got caught out for, like a previous company. Well, not that I got caught out, but the site was actually shut down because my safe electric inspector for the previous company came in, and he checked the site, and there were 230 leads going around everywhere in the site. That was something I never would have thought of until now. I used to stand in on the inspections because I was a QC for my old company, like, that I used to work for. But that's some of the things that they look for as well. Like, you wouldn't think of them things, but you really need to be aware of them, because he actually shut the site down because there was 230 coming in when it should have only been 110. A couple of the other things then were like having your book of completion certs for that year, your test record sheets associated with the certs.
Hand as well, yeah?
You have to have all that stuff there, and you need your reg book as well. So the most up-to-date reg books with any of the amendments that they might have sent out throughout the year or the last couple of years, you have to have them on hand as well.
Would you have one of them in every van?
I wouldn't. I usually carry them myself, like, and then what we do is another electrician that is on Instagram, I'm sure you won't mind us mentioning him, Henry Dean Electrical.
Yeah.
What he was nice enough to do was send me on. He has like a pre-made PDF version, so the lads would have access to that PDF. So what they do is they'll generally fill in all their values and that on site, just 'cause you know yourself with the books, like, they get destroyed. So basically what they'll do is they'll take all that stuff down and add it to Tradeify, so every job will have its certificate, and then what they do then is they write it in afterwards into the test record.
I think we do, like, I do that a lot as well with the emergency lighting, and if you're doing like some periodic inspections and stuff, it's just a lot handier to use a PDF filler on your phone or your tablet, you know. Fill it all out there on the job, and then when you get back then, like you said, just you'll just download it off that then and straight onto the actual proper certificate, you know. Saves for any mistakes as well, and you know yourself with the certificate books and what the price of them are as well. You don't want just pages being wrecked from silly mistakes, you know. You want to make sure you get it right, you know.
It definitely does, because you know you are just kind of writing them down quickly, like you're not doing your best handwriting. You could be on top of a ladder, you could be, you know, walking with it in your hand, so it's nice to get it on a desk and get it done properly, because you do miss things like the likes of the MPRN numbers or something. You might miss a digit and then you're scribbling on it, like, it just doesn't look great, you know. But so they want to see those completion certs and test record sheets for the year. Now they won't go through it forensically, like, but they will go through it enough to know that you're doing them correctly, like, and, you know, filling it out properly. But what they will want to see then is the test equipment that you're using, and, you know, the certificates associated with them, like your calibration certs for the year and stuff like that. They want to see all that kind of stuff, and then obviously your own accreditation, like your QC numbers for testing and stuff like that. And then anything else that you're using, like, you know, they want to see all that kind of stuff.
Do they inspect your test equipment?
They don't, and well, they do. They take it out of the box and they'll check that it's calibrated and that they'll have the, you know, your calibration is in date, and you'll use that test equipment then to do your inspection, because they'll want to do your RPREs on selected circuits, and like usually what they'll do is they'll look at the test record sheet, and they'll have a look at one or two, and they'll literally just point it and say, come on, we'll go test this circuit. And if you're at if you're at post connection stage, they'll actually do, you know, pre and post on that circuit, you know, so they'll just make sure that test equipment that you're using is fit for purpose.
Yeah,
like, you know.
That's actually a good one to bring up, because somebody mentioned to me before, you know, they were doing a bit of testing, they were using a mega unit, this is obviously within a big company, and they get onto the flukes, you know, and, you know, for similar type runs and similar type testing, you're getting different readings, you know. The difference you're getting just from two units, and just based on, I think it's the battery within the unit can give slightly different readings, so it's a good thing to know, like, if you are doing your testing having those results ready on hand, and then the inspector comes out, you want to make things a bit easier for yourself to make sure that you're within those limits. Use the same meter again,
Yeah, and like you wanna portray to him that you're kind of a master of using this machine, because if he sees you and you're fiddling around with it and you don't think you know what you're doing, like it's you're raising red flags there.
It's like when I gave you the maker that time in the garage and you were saying this is not a fluke.
Yeah, this is like this is witchcraft. But no, and actually when you gave me a loan of that one, I used it on a couple of jobs side by side with the fluke. Like, and I actually thought I obviously bought the fluke and I'm invested in the fluke, but I thought the makers were pretty good as well. But yeah, you just want to be able to know, like, straight away. You want to know how to do your your nulling of the meter, testing of your leads, and basically anytime you're packing up your leads, don't be kinking your leads, because these are all, you wouldn't believe the damage you do to the pre-made leads when you're baiting them into the bag. Like, you need to coil them up nicely, because you'd see the difference in your resistance levels. Like, I don't know, when I was doing my QC course, I don't know if they did it with you.
No, 100%. I done mine through the designer group actually out in Glasnevin, and the instructor out there that day, he was adamant, make sure there's nice looped circles with your leads. You're not kinking them. There's no knots in them. You know what I mean? And if you were to be seen to be doing anything where you were kinking your leads, like, it was a big no.
Yeah, the lad that we had, I think we did it in ice scales out in Bluebell Industrial Estate or something. But yeah, he was kinking the leads. Like, he did a live kind of a demonstration of how bad it can get.
Yeah.
So he was kinking. He had a good lead there that he tested, and then he kinked it and manhandled it for a couple of minutes, and then did the same test again, and it was completely, like, it was miles out from what it was previous. Like, so it's the difference between getting good and bad readings. Like,
yeah, it's the little things like that people would overlook, and it's if you're on a site and you're you want to make sure that it's your hand tools, your test equipment, they're your bread and butter. You know what I mean? There's what you're working with every day, so you want to make sure that you're keeping them in good condition.
Yeah, like, that's it. Like, they're looking at them things as well. Like, you wouldn't believe, like the first lad was literally went through my bag to see what we were using. Like, so you've got rusty old soil cutters and he knows you're using that. Like, he's probably gonna get a notion that, like, you don't really give a crap. Like, yeah,
butchers on site.
The butchers, yeah. But no, that's basically it. Like, and, like, look, at the end of the day, they're not out to get you. Like, you're paying a membership. They're, in their words, they're trying to protect you as well. Like, so if you're doing something wrong and they pull you up on it, it's for your own good. Like, because down the line, one of those bad things could potentially end up in a house fire. Like, sorry about that.
So the moral of the story is once you're honest and the inspector comes out and you show them that you're capable, that if you don't know the answer offhand, you know where to get the answer from, then you should be alright, and it shouldn't be really something that you have to worry about. But I know you were saying there that if anybody was daunted by their initial inspections that they might have coming up, that you'd be happy enough to have them DM you on Instagram or something and talk you through it,
Yeah, ask away, because I'm fresh enough. Like, so it's only 3 years since that I'm in business. So that first year, and another thing to note, like, the other thing that would warrant an inspection is where I've only come across it, I think it's twice now, where you have the situation where you have a job that's gone through a change of contractors process. So basically, where the house has been started by another rec, and then it's for whatever reasons, maybe the customers have fallen out with them, or they've fallen out with the customers, or they fell ill and they couldn't finish the job, whatever it is. You have to go through a procedure where the customer and yourself are letting Safe Electric know that this job is kind of being done by two recs, like, and you're taking responsibility for the work of the previous one, which is kind of a rigorous. It's an inspection as well in itself. Like, they're going to come out just to make sure that you're not just taking it over from a DIYer, or that's been done properly. Like, so I got an inspection for one of those jobs as well, and yeah, all went planned. Actually, the job we were doing, the guy before me had done a brilliant job. I had an inkling that he might have just fell out with a fairly particular customer and just had enough of it. I kind of was getting to the end of my tether at the end of that job as well, but yeah, that's what happens, like, you know.
Yeah, and I think in those situations, those type of procedures are definitely there to protect yourself, you know, because
100%.
at the end of the day, you know, to keep you, you know, being able to say to yourself, look, I'm taking on somebody else's work, which a lot of people won't do, you know what I mean? That if you are willing to do it, you know, it has to be all above board, and you have to be willing to say that, look, what's done beyond those walls, and I'm putting my name to that, and your name is on that signature at the end of the day, that you're happy enough to say, look, I'm going to stand over that, you know.
Well, I was lucky enough that that job in particular, now it was plastered at the time and all the cables had been ran in, but all the floorboards were still fully accessible from upstairs, so,
so
I literally re-lifted all the floorboards.
Two right, yeah.
And then we actually used a metal stud finder to make sure that they'd run their mains down in metal protection.
Right.
Now obviously I couldn't see him behind the wall, but it would have been some class of maybe steel capping or maybe a large like 32mm conduit or something like that. So, but we were lucky in the sense. I probably wouldn't have took the job on if I couldn't have checked all those things before.
Yeah, I was just going to say that to you. Like, it's a big ask for somebody to take over somebody's work. So I was just going to say to you, would you take on something similar if you couldn't look beyond the walls or the floors? You know,
probably not. Bar, I suppose the only other way you do it is if, like, I've a lot of buddies that are electricians, like, and some of them have their own companies, like, and like if you knew they fell into hard times or their customer, they couldn't fulfill the job for their customer, and you knew who they were and you knew what they were about, you'd say maybe, like, you know. But obviously you have to test it all anyway. Like, if the readings come back good, you're nearly halfway there. But like most people, as you know, me and you we do it that way, where we're taking photographic evidence throughout the job.
So that covers you anyway.
Because I know when I finish my first fix, I'll do a full walkthrough and try and pick up everything, just in case, like, someone, you know, put up a plasterboard and I know, well, there was a cable there and he put a screw through it there, I bet you he hit the cable or something like that, you know.
Well, reputation is everything, you know. You'd know that, like, if you were doing a job and touch wood, you know, you got ill, that you'd know that if somebody was to look to take over your work, that they could go and check your Instagram out and say, look, this guy is above board, you know, and that they'd have your reputation to go on to say, look, I'm happy enough to take this lad's work on because his work precedes him, you know.
Yeah, and like, all this stuff leads into, or it's basically going back on what we were talking about the other week, but the house fire that we kind of had to deal with and rewire that house, like, because there's no way in hell that the guy that wired that house, there's no way in hell he was safe electric registered, like, you know, because the stuff he done, you'd never get away with them, and that's a good thing, like, you know.
It's scary to think that there is people out there doing that, you know.
Yeah, well, it definitely is. Like, you've seen it yourself. Like, you go, like, how many calls you probably the same as me, where you have family members and stuff asking you to have a look at something and seeing what do you think they should do next and all this kind of stuff. And, like, for instance, our grandfather's house, you think you got a call there the other week, like, you know, some of the stuff you see in the older houses, like
Pandora's box, you know, when you open it up, like, it's unreal, you know. I think the main fuse jumped out at me when I opened the house.
Sometimes them jobs, you get to, like, the point of no return, like, you know what I mean? It's like it's like the wardrobe to Narnia, like, you know. You don't know what's going to pop out at you, like.
I guess there was a couple of suggestion questions that came in from Instagram. One of them was fairly interesting. It was, what do you feel about systematic underperformers within a company?
Well, look, I've a good few lads working for me now, like, but none of them are there overly long. I suppose I could answer a question like what's the worst thing you've seen a lad doing, like, do you know, the worst thing I've seen a lad doing now, I was only told by one of the apprentices, which is even more alarming, like, We were doing a job. It was just a 3-bed house. I think it was in Stony Bar, and it was like, max maybe a week and a couple of days to get out of it. Like, first fixing it. Now I'm talking about a couple of days. The second fix it. But the first fix just seemed to go on forever. Like, I was caught up in other jobs, so I kind of put it to one of me qualified lads. But the job went on for like 2.5 weeks, and I was like, what's going on? Like, and I only got a chance to call in once or twice. This where like you kind of have to keep on top of lads and make sure you're showing your face every now and again. But yeah, I got pictures through the Stradify one evening, and like to the untrained eye, everything looked perfect. All the chases were done, and I was thinking to myself, geez, the lads are really, really motoring along with this job. Like, so I think the day after I called out, went to the job, and the chases were absolutely horrendous. Now, I mean, like, we have a good chaser, and we try to use the best tool too.
What's his name?
I won't name anybody. But yeah, first thing I did, like, my instinct was to call the apprentice that was with him. I just pointed a finger, I said, come out here to have a chat with you for a second. Like, brought him outside, and I was like, what in the name of Jesus were you doing with those chases? Like, he took half the walls out of it, like, and you could see, like, he was under pressure because I was kind of half giving out to him, and he was just like, Keith, well, I have to tell you the truth, like, I won't be taking this, like, he took a stance, like, and he said, before we finished yesterday evening, the said person in question wanted to make it look for the pictures that we'd done a lot of work. So he brought the Kango to the wall, and he just started driving it up the wall. He didn't even chase the wall, he just started driving the Kango up the wall to make the chases, or make the pictures look like all the chases were done. And it's an old house in Stony Bar, you need to use a good grinder to get it neat, like, and even at that you might get a few chips. But when I say he made a dog's dinner of it, and the chases were only not even 5 mil deep, but in the pictures they looked like they were completely done, like. Right. But he took the pictures in a way that it made it look like he'd loads done, not expecting me to come the next morning, so he didn't have time to fix it. So he drove the oaks up the wall, drove about 10 of them up the wall like this, just to make it look like he had more work done. So this is the thing here, and this guy, I suppose he was what was the word? Systematic underperformer. There was another job, like, I'd probably go on for days and days. I don't know why I kept this lad so long. I think it was a kind of like, I knew him for years, so it was kind of, this is what I'm saying, you're better off knowing him or not knowing him. But one of the days I came out to the job, I think it was 8:30 in the morning, so we started 7:30, and I came into, they didn't know I was coming, and I wasn't trying to trick them or anything, just literally calling into the job to give them a bit of gear. And I went into the room, and one of the apprentices was moving a socket, and I looked across the other side of the room, and the fully qualified lad was asleep against the wall. Jesus. Like, literally sitting, lying on the ground, like.
And you didn't fall off a ladder?
No. He just fell onto his arse, I think, and just sat there for a couple of hours. So there's loads of other stuff, Yeah, it is a bit of a problem with some lads,
I don't really have to deal with it as much because I'm pretty much a lone wolf out in the van working on my own, so I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
You have to answer to yourself,
yeah, pretty much. But another one there was, any funny stories from site that over the years? I was trying to think back actually, like, was there any funny things that had happened to myself? And I just remember being on a job a good few years ago when I was an apprentice, and I was working on a job, I think we were doing a lighting refit on a big college fit out with one of the companies I worked for. And what had happened was one of the sparks had taken down an emergency fitting from the ceiling, and obviously the battery had discharged on it then, so that the light had lit up, Yeah. And he handed it to the first year apprentice on the site, and one of the other sparks was in on it at the time, so he walked in and he was screaming, "What are you doing, handing that to the apprentice," and you could see the apprentice's face was freaked, So he told him, because the light was lit up, he told him that he was live now, and that he couldn't move until the light went out, so he fell for it, so we'd worked away. I think it was a 3-hour discharge on it or something, so I think he was there for a good hour and a half. We went for lunch, we came back and we could see him through the window still standing in the same spot. So we told him if he moved he'd get a shock, so when obviously the battery fully discharged, the light went out, everybody pissed themselves and finally let it out to him, and learned his lesson from that. But I think that was a funny one.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So he felt like I'm sure he used that on a long time ago now. I'm sure he's used that on some of his apprentices now at this stage. So it kind of goes in circles, doesn't it? But just when you were saying that, I remembered one. It was actually, I didn't see it firsthand, but one of the lads was telling me, when he was an apprentice, so he was a third year I think at the time, and they had a fresh first year in, and they were doing nursing homes around the Dublin area, so the bigger nursing homes. So what they were doing is they were going in and they were installing they were like duvet covers, for the patients. So what they were doing, I'm not sure if they were spurred in or if they were just plugging them in and putting them on the bed. I'm not too sure. I presume they were spurring them in to the they were attached to the bed some way. But so there was a fully qualified guy with them, and he was my mate's name was Percy, and he was like, Percy, the new lad's in now, you don't have to do the testing now tomorrow. And Percy was like, alright, kind of just going along with it, and he goes, Jack's gonna have to do it tomorrow. And Jack was like, oh, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? And your man was like, you have to wear in a pair of pajamas tomorrow, and you need to do a test on these beds. So you need to get into the bed and make sure you get nice and cozy, the heating elements are working. So the next day he arrives in anyway, so he's in the Snickers now, and he has the gym bag with him, and the pair of fleecy pajama bottoms, so he's like, right, so you hop in there, you're going to spend an hour on that and make sure that one's working. So the young lad gets in, and next the boss arrives on site, and there's the young lad lying in the bed on his phone. So
the pajamas on him, whatever.
The pajamas on him, the whole lot. So as far as I know, the boss could only laugh, and say,
you have to let that one go.
You eat it, as long as he wasn't falling for anything like that from then on,
It's amazing. I'm pretty sure there'll be loads more of them, but maybe for another week. I've got Kerrie Fitzgerald coming on today. She's Apprentice of the Year 2023, so that'll be an interesting one.
Very good, yeah. You appreciate when people go to the lengths to actually get those titles, don't you, really? I know when we were doing it, it was a nice thing to be. I think you were as well. I was nominated to go forward for the regionals, I think it was, and at the time, I was doing the apprentice, or it was in Sullis or in Foss at the time, and that thing landed on a weekend, but I was still, working for the boss the weekend as well, so kind of didn't suit, but it's great that it's been more highlighted and recognised,
Yeah, and it's great even just to get a female perspective on the industry as well, because yourself,
True.
Every second person you're talking to, it's a male voice, you know what I mean? So it'd be great to hear an actual a female voice giving their opinion on what they think the industry is like,
Oh no, 100%. It might be a break from listening to us jabbering around, you know what I mean?
Right, well I guess we'll leave it there, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Cheers, Steve. I'll try and be around for the next one as well.
Yeah, no bother. Take it easy.
Thanks, Steve.
My guest today is an apprentice electrician from Cork in the Republic of Ireland. In 2023, she was nominated and won Apprentice of the Year, making her the first ever female recipient of this accolade. Welcome to the podcast, Kerrie Fitzgerald. Kerrie, welcome to the podcast. I'm delighted that you agreed to come on.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. So look, we'll try and take it back a bit and get a bit of insight to when you were in school, talking to your friends and family about what you wanted to do when you graduated, and what made you choose the path of a technical apprenticeship rather than the more traditional educational route that most girls will take.
Yeah, so for me, the decision to start an electrical apprenticeship was kind of driven by my preference for hands-on learning. I was always kind of the kid making stuff out of cereal boxes growing up, And when I was studying for my Leaving Cert, I didn't know what I wanted to do really, so I just kept my options open by choosing a wide enough range of subjects. One of those happened to be technology, and I actually didn't know that I was going to fall in love with it completely. I knew I needed to continue in that area, and choosing an apprenticeship was a no-brainer really when it comes to gaining experience, and getting paid while you learn is just really a huge bonus. I couldn't imagine having to work a part-time job after school every day while trying to juggle study and assignments at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's great that, you know, females and everybody from all types of backgrounds now like don't feel like that they're segregated away from coming into a technical career, you know. So how has your apprenticeship experience been overall?
My experience has been really positive so far. Like, there's been no difference in work or school, how I'm treated compared to the lads. And finding a ways to get the same work done with different strengths is a challenge I actually enjoy. There's not very much stigma except for the odd remark like, oh, you know, Jesus, you're a girl, so you must be spotless while you work. But it's gas, because it's like the complete opposite. There's like a nice mix of challenges and opportunities, and I'm proud in the progress I've made with like no prior experience in the field.
What challenges have you encountered as a woman in the industry, and how did you overcome them?
I haven't had like any hassle at all, but that's just my experience, of course. The only challenge I face really is kind of a lack of representation. And I'm finding that sometimes while I'm in school, I'd be the only girl in the room, and you'd find that you'd have to work that bit harder just to kind of prove yourself. But while I'm in work, I'm treated just the same as everyone else on the team, which is like really important to get the same experience and knowledge in the trade. And as I mentioned in the last question there, I kind of sometimes really struggle a little lifting or pulling the odd thing, but like that happens so rarely nowadays. I definitely seen an improvement on my own strength over the years, and there's all sorts of mechanical aids for that kind of stuff anyway that you should be using. And anyway, there's like hand trucks and pulleys and stuff that you should be using for manual handling anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot has changed over the years now, where they're expecting just one person to break their back in order to do something. A lot of stuff now is a team effort, you know. And how important is it to have more women entering the industry through apprenticeships, and what can be or has been done to encourage this?
Not only is it important for gender equality, but it's pretty essential for the growth of the trade, as it kind of ties in a much more wider range of perspectives, ideas and kind of skills to the trade. And I love seeing diversity in the workplace, and especially in college, in the off-the-job phases. The amount of things that I've learnt off my peers is unreal, and it's all because of the mix of different backgrounds in the classroom. And as far as I know, there's a gender bursary given to employers if they do hire a female apprentice. And I've seen plenty of advertisements and supports offered in schools, such as career guidance. But personally, I'd love to see a lot more effort given in schools to educate people on apprenticeships, and that you would be studying like a bit more maths and stuff than what's expected. There's a big stigma around it. Like it's the only course to take if you didn't want to go to college, but there's still a lot of study and learning to be done during those 4 years.
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, they just hone in on the physical aspect of the job, but there is a mental aspect to it as well. And you know, a lot of males and females, like, you know what I mean, have a lot to offer, like when it comes to the academic end of an apprenticeship. So I think it's great to see that, you know, there is an encouragement to get more females into the industry, and I think it's only a positive step, you know. Did you have any mentors or resources that helped you whilst you navigated your apprenticeship?
Jesus, I'm actually very lucky to have a huge support system around me, from like my family to my mentors in work and also the instructors in school. I'm currently working under 2 electricians, and they've like so much experience and knowledge in the trade. One of them, David Burke, only recently got the Skills Award from MTU after getting top marks in all his exams, so I definitely have a lot to live up to. And my maintenance team manager, Chris Coyne, just goes above and beyond for the whole team, and I'm just so grateful for everything that they do for me on this journey. resource-wise, I find that there's so much to be learnt off sparks on social media. There's projects being done that I might not ever see on the field, and you never know what you're going to come across. And I find that reaching out to other tradespeople, like it's never been easier really. And I just love a good chat with Alicia on her AORL electrical page.
Yeah, I know Alicia actually. I met her at Electex in the RDS. Very, very knowledgeable girl, and there's a lot going for her, you know.
Yeah, I find everyone's just really responsive, and it's a great sign like of support given out there.
Yeah, I think the community that you have around you does make the difference, you know, and I think like to have, like you said, peers that are willing to get stuck in and teach you makes, you know, your apprenticeship go that much more smoothly, you know. And talking about working with your peers and learning from them, what sector are you gaining your electrical experience within, and what do you enjoy most about it?
So I'm currently doing my apprenticeship in the industrial setting. So I'd be in a maintenance team, and there'd be some preventative maintenance, such as temperature monitoring, cleaning, checking the brushes and motors, etc. It's a large enough factory with the likes of extrusion lines and injection moulding, and there's just so much more. There's no knowing really when something goes wrong or there's a breakdown. It's really great experience trying to find like a faulty contactor or a blown fuse in a huge control panel. I'm constantly learning on the job and improving on my fault finding skills. What I mostly enjoy doing though is new projects that are being done all the time to kind of improve the efficiency of the factory. Last year I learned to install a new shredder machine, and I love helping my mentor in changing the old DC motors to AC. The work behind it's unreal, and it's great working alongside the fitters in these projects too, and it really makes you realise the sheer amount of skill kind of that the team has.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that, because I think when, you know, people are leaving school or they're thinking about joining an electrical apprenticeship, they just see electricians as the people that come into your house and put down lights in or add an extra socket, you know, and you don't see the other side of it, or the other avenues that are available. So you mentioning there the preventative maintenance aspect and the industrial work and working in factories, you know, really opens it up and gives people an insight that there is a lot more out there within the electrical game, you know. Talking about your learning, you then got nominated for Apprentice of the Year 2023, and not only nominated, you won it. How did you feel, or what was your reaction when you were announced as the winner? And has it given you any more confidence within your role and solidified your choice that you made in choosing an electrical apprenticeship?
Yeah, I was delighted to hear off my manager that Cork College of Further Education and Training, where I did my phase 2 training in Bishopstown, they rang and wanted to put forward a nomination on my behalf. And when I read my entry, the manager put forward as well, I just couldn't believe it. It's a really great feeling to be recognised and knowing people want to support your hard work. I nearly tripped up in the stage getting my award, and I was just in such shock, and hearing the staff from the college and everyone else on the table shouting, like it was class. It really done wonders for my confidence, and it's a great boost to have an achievement like that under your belt. I think every winner and all the nominees for the awards should be really proud of themselves and how far they come in their journey. It makes me really believe in myself and what's to come in the future after I qualify, and I really just wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, congratulations on that, and congratulations to everybody involved. And I was actually put onto your profile through you winning the award, so it just goes to show the range that social media has after winning these awards, and what it can open up for you, you know. I'm talking about social media. Within the social media world, you seem to keep a bit of a low key regarding work content that you post, but do you think that the influx of trade-related social media influencers is good for the industry? Like the women who are trailblazers in the UK right now, such as Kimby the Sparks or Bet Electrical, who share their content and promote women within the trades. Do you have any aspirations to follow in their footsteps and be a trailblazer for women within the Irish trade industry?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to have these kind of trailblazers in place, as they act as almost kind of role models and can really set the stage for the talent that's out there. Whether like you're an apprentice, fully qualified, or even just interested in the trade, these people show really great pride in their work, and they have enough confidence to show it to the world as well. It's great to have women representing themselves and their work in the industry as well. I think things need to be kept diverse to gain all these different insights into the trade. And I think everybody has their own unique journey and path to success. And starting a trade can be daunting enough. And I feel that bringing social media into the equation really is just, it's a huge commitment. And you of all people know how much time it can take up being constantly active and creating content and stuff. Like, even though I love promoting apprenticeships and diversity by kind of advocating on my own personal page, I'm just kind of focusing on my apprenticeship at the moment and taking things step by step. It's definitely in the books, so I'd say keep an ear out for yourself.
I definitely will. I'll keep an eye out for you. And I guess talking about social media and Instagram, I got some listeners' questions come through from a suggestion box that I put up when I announced that you were going to be on. And I was just wondering, would you be happy enough to answer a couple of them?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Right, so we'll start with the first one, and it's, after you qualify, do you plan to upskill with any courses?
Yeah, I'd love to continue with my education once I'm qualified. There's actually a lot of options out there that actually make it so hard to choose. I'm really interested afterwards in becoming an apprenticeship instructor down the line. So I might do a few courses that can help me kind of get my foot in the door there.
Yeah, I had John Doheny on episode 1. I don't know if you listened to it, but I think if you linked in with him through Instagram, I'd say you'd have a lot of advice for you if you were looking to go down that route. Question 2 was, what advice would you give to a girl thinking to start an electrical apprenticeship after they left school?
My advice would definitely be just go for it, and remember, your gender doesn't really determine your skills or your potential. I'd also try and seek out other female tradies such as myself, or anyone else, to kind of set up that support system for yourself for like-minded advice and navigation. Everyone is just so helpful, and there's nothing you can't ask. And as the old saying goes, like, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah, from Instagram, I find that you're very approachable. So I would say that anybody that is looking to go down the same route as yourself, just hit Kerrie up on Instagram with a DM, and I'm pretty sure that she'll point you in the right direction. Question 3 was, what is the best PPE to get for a girl in the industry?
I'm kind of lucky enough that in work we have our own kind of workwear provided to us. But off the job, like when I'm in school, I'd have a pair of the women's Snickers for myself. But I think the next pair now will be the Scruffs women's trousers. I think they look great, and the more pair of pockets inside the pants, the better.
That's good to know. Good to know for all the girls in the industry. And I guess we'll just finish up now with one of my own questions that I ask to every guest. And it's, I'm putting together a season 1 playlist where each guest gets to add one song onto it. What would your song of choice be?
I do love a bit of trance, so I'd say I'm going to go with Adagio for Strings by Tiesto.
Very good. That's going to make an eclectic playlist now. So, Kerrie, thanks for coming on and sharing your journey with me. I wish you all the best for the future. And now I'm going to play you out to your song choice. Thanks, Kerrie.
Thanks so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Right, that's just about it for episode 5. I'd like to thank Kerrie and Keith for joining me on the episode today. If you liked what you heard, come back next time for another instalment of The Overload with Keith Delahan, and we've got Dan from Rewired Agency coming on to give us an insight into the world of administration within the industry. So head over to wherever you get your podcasts and give us a like and follow to be notified when the next episode drops. Take it easy, everyone.